The confrontation begins the way so many turning points in Steffy's life have begun. Not with shouting, not with violence, but with a quiet that feels too heavy to be accidental. The walls of Taylor's office seem closer than usual, the air thick with things unsaid, with history pressing in from every corner. Steffy has come armed with certainty, with anger sharpened by recent discoveries and the unmistakable feeling that something fundamental has been kept from her. She believes she is prepared for whatever truth her mother might confess. What she does not yet understand is that some truths do not announce themselves cleanly. Some slip out sideways, careless and devastating, changing the shape of everything in an instant. Taylor tries to hold her ground at first. She speaks carefully, clinically, as if the right tone might preserve the fragile boundary between mother and daughter, between professional composure and personal collapse. Steffy presses harder, demanding clarity, demanding honesty, demanding to know why secrets keep gathering around their family like storm clouds. The argument escalates not because either woman intends it to, but because both are tired of pretending that silence is protection. Taylor insists she has done what she believed was right. Steffy insists that what feels right is not always what is true. And then, in a moment of exhaustion rather than intent, Taylor says it. A single sentence, unfinished, unguarded, spoken more to herself than to her daughter. A reference to a birth no one knew about. A moment that should never have existed outside the deepest vault of memory. Steffy freezes. The words do not land all at once. They echo, distort, repeat themselves in her mind until meaning finally takes hold. A birth. A child. A secret so large it reshapes the past. For a brief, terrifying moment, Steffy wonders if she has misunderstood, if emotion has twisted her perception. But Taylor's face gives her away. The color drains, her eyes widen, and in that silent exchange, Steffy knows. This is not speculation. This is not metaphor. This is real. The world Steffy thought she understood fractures along an invisible fault line. Memories rearrange themselves violently, every odd detail from the past suddenly demanding re-examination. Absences that were never explained. Decisions that never quite made sense. Emotional distances she once attributed to stress or circumstance now appear in a different light. Steffy does not scream. She does not cry. The shock is too deep for either. Instead, she goes very still, as if any movement might shatter what remains of her control. Taylor tries to explain, her words tumbling over one another, justification and regret tangled so tightly they are indistinguishable. She speaks of fear, of pressure, of a moment in her life when everything felt impossible. She speaks of protection, of believing that secrecy was mercy. But Steffy hears none of it as intended. What she hears is abandonment, betrayal, the realization that her mother, the woman who taught her about honesty and strength, has carried a lie so profound that it eclipses every lesson she ever gave. Steffy leaves without resolution. There is nothing more to say, no argument that can bridge the chasm that has opened between what she believed and what now exists. She walks out carrying a single, unbearable question. Who was that child, and where are they now? The question follows her home like a ghost. It settles into the quiet corners of her mind, refusing to be ignored. By the time Finn notices that something is wrong, Steffy is already unraveling internally. Caught between disbelief and a gnawing certainty that her life has been intersecting with this secret for far longer than she realized. Finn listens as she speaks, his concern deepening with every fragmented detail she shares. He does not interrupt. He does not minimize. He understands immediately that rumors, once spoken, take on a life of their own, especially in a family already scarred by secrets. It is Finn who suggests genetic testing, not as an accusation, but as an anchor. Something solid in a situation that feels increasingly unreal. He frames it as a way to stop the whispers before they metastasize into something uncontrollable. Steffy agrees, clinging to the hope that facts might restore order, that science might offer relief where emotion has failed. She tells herself that even if the truth is painful, at least it will be contained, defined, finite. The results arrive quietly. No dramatic phone call. No ominous warning. Just data, precise and unforgiving. The match is real. The probability absolute. There is no room for interpretation, no margin for doubt. The truth does not merely confirm the rumor, it validates it completely. The child Taylor spoke of exists, and more than that, he has been standing in Steffy's life all along. The realization is not immediate. It unfolds slowly, cruelly, as Steffy begins to connect patterns she once dismissed as coincidence. Dylan's presence, relentless and invasive. His fixation on her that went far beyond obsession. His rage that always seemed personal, intimate, as if fueled by something deeper than desire or jealousy. Steffy remembers the way he watched her, not like a stranger craving attention, but like someone searching her face for recognition. Something inside her twists painfully as the truth crystallizes. Dylan was never just a threat circling her life. He was a son circling his mother's shadow. The knowledge reframes everything. Dylan's pursuit, once terrifying and inexplicable, now carries a different kind of horror. It was not only about control. It was not only about obsession. It was about identity. About a man who grew up knowing he had been abandoned, who learned early that love could disappear without explanation. Steffy becomes, in this new understanding, not merely a target, but a symbol. She represents the life he was denied. The family that kept moving forward without him. The sister who never knew he existed. But there is another layer to Dylan's fixation, one that chills Steffy even more deeply. He does not only want acknowledgement, he wants reckoning. He wants his mother to suffer the weight of what she did, to feel the consequences of a choice that reshaped his entire existence. Steffy, in his mind, is the perfect instrument for that punishment. By destroying her sense of safety, by infiltrating her life, by forcing the truth into the open through terror rather than confession, Dylan ensures that the pain of abandonment is finally shared. Steffy struggles to reconcile the man she fears with the brother she never knew she had. Empathy fights with terror inside her, neither willing to surrender. She understands now that Dylan's rage is rooted in loss, that his need for recognition is as desperate as it is destructive. But understanding does not erase danger. It does not undo the harm he has already caused, nor does it guarantee that his need for vengeance has been satisfied. Taylor, when confronted with the full weight of what her secret has unleashed, collapses under it. The child she believed she was protecting by disappearing him has grown into a man whose pain now threatens everyone she loves. Her justifications fall apart in the face of this reality. What she once framed as mercy has become neglect. What she called survival has become abandonment. And now the cost is no longer theoretical. It is immediate and devastating. Finn becomes Steffy's anchor as everything else threatens to drift beyond reach. He watches her move through grief not just for a childhood illusion shattered, but for the family she thought she understood. He sees the way guilt creeps in despite her innocence, the way she questions whether she could have changed things if she had known. He reminds her gently that responsibility does not travel backward through time, that Dylan's choices, however shaped by trauma, remain his own. Yet, even Finn cannot shield Steffy from the final, cruel realization. Dylan's shadow will not disappear simply because the truth is known. Recognition may have been one of his goals, but punishment remains unfinished business. Taylor must face the son she left behind. Steffy must live with the knowledge that the danger she endured was not random, but deeply personal. And Dylan, finally seen, must decide whether acknowledgement is enough or whether destruction still feels like justice. The family stands at the edge of a reckoning that cannot be avoided. Secrets have done what they always do when exposed. They have multiplied the damage rather than containing it. Love, fear, guilt, and rage intertwine so tightly that no one can separate them cleanly. The past, long buried, has clawed its way back into the present, demanding not only recognition, but consequence. And as Steffi looks toward an uncertain future, one truth becomes painfully clear. The most dangerous wounds are not the ones inflicted openly, but the ones created by silence. Silence gave Dylan his rage. Silence gave Steffi her shock. Silence allowed a family to fracture without ever knowing why. Now, with the truth finally exposed, healing may be possible, but it will come only after every lie is fully faced and every abandoned part of the past is finally allowed to speak. The truth, once uncovered, does not move in straight lines. It ripples. It destabilizes. It demands responses from people who were never prepared to answer it. After the genetic results confirm what Steffi feared and Taylor never intended to confess so brutally, the family does not collapse all at once. Instead, it fractures slowly in quiet rooms, in sleepless nights, in conversations that begin and end without resolution. What comes next is not a single explosion, but a prolonged aftershock that forces every character to confront not only what they have lost, but who they have been pretending to be. Steffi does not tell anyone immediately. She carries the knowledge like a physical weight, something lodged beneath her ribs that makes breathing feel like effort. She moves through her days with practiced control, attending meetings, speaking in calm tones, making decisions that appear decisive from the outside. Yet inside, her mind is in constant motion, replaying moments with Dylan that now feel horrifyingly intimate in retrospect. His proximity was never accidental. His timing was never coincidence. Every time he appeared, every boundary he crossed was an attempt to be seen by a family that never knew he existed. The most destabilizing part is not fear, but recognition. Steffi begins to see fragments of herself in Dylan, his intensity, his need to matter, his refusal to be ignored. That similarity unsettles her more than any threat he ever made. It forces her to confront an uncomfortable truth. Had their lives been reversed, had she been the one abandoned, raised in the margins of secrecy, would she have emerged whole? Or would she, too, have carried her pain like a weapon? Finn notices the change before Steffi says a word. He sees it in the way she startles at small sounds, in the way her hand tightens around his when she thinks no one is watching. When she finally tells him what the results confirmed, there is no drama in her voice, only exhaustion. Finn listens, absorbing the implications with the precision of a doctor and the protectiveness of a husband. His immediate instinct is safety, not just physical, but psychological. He wants distance between Steffi and Dylan, wants walls, protocols, certainty. But Steffi knows it is too late for that. Dylan has already embedded himself into their story. Walls will not erase him. Taylor, meanwhile, is unraveling in ways she does not know how to stop. The secret she buried for decades has not only resurfaced, it has grown teeth. She spends hours alone, replaying the moment of that birth she thought she could forget. She remembers the hospital room, the sterile light, the silence she chose because noise would have made it real. She remembers convincing herself that disappearance was kindness, that absence was protection. Those rationalizations collapse now under the weight of Dylan's existence. Whatever she believed she was sparing him from, she has instead given him a lifetime of unanswered questions and a rage powerful enough to consume him. Taylor wants to reach out to Dylan, to explain, to apologize, to do something, anything that might undo the damage. But every attempt stalls before it begins. How does one apologize for erasing someone? How does a mother explain that fear outweighed love? And more importantly, does she have the right to ask for forgiveness from a son who never had the option of rejection? Dylan, for his part, does not vanish now that the truth is known. He does the opposite. He becomes bolder, more present, as if exposure has removed the last restraint. He watches Steffi with a gaze that is no longer merely obsessive, but evaluative. She is no longer just a symbol of the life he was denied. She is proof that he existed all along in parallel, unseen and unacknowledged. His need shifts subtly. Recognition alone is no longer enough. He wants ownership of the narrative. When Dylan finally confronts Taylor, it is not the confrontation she imagines. There is no screaming, no violence, no immediate accusation. He speaks calmly, almost clinically, which terrifies her far more than rage would have. He tells her he knows everything. He tells her the test results were unnecessary, that he has always known she was his mother, even without proof. He has carried that certainty like a scar, shaped his entire identity around it. The test, he says, only confirmed what abandonment already taught him. Taylor tries to explain, but Dylan stops her. He does not want explanations. He wants acknowledgement. He wants her to say his name, to say it with the weight of responsibility she avoided for decades. When she finally does, her voice breaks in a way she cannot control. Dylan watches closely, cataloging her pain, measuring it against his own. It is not enough. It will never be enough. Steffy learns of this meeting after the fact, and fear floods her system in a way she has not felt since Dylan first began stalking her. Not because Dylan hurt Taylor, but because he did not. His restraint suggests planning, intention, patience. He is no longer acting purely on impulse. He is choosing his moments, deciding where pain will be most effective. And Steffy knows with sickening clarity that she remains central to that strategy. The family begins to fracture along moral lines. Some believe Dylan is a victim first and foremost, shaped by trauma he never chose. Others see only the danger he represents. Steffy finds herself caught in the middle, unable to deny his pain yet unwilling to excuse his actions. She refuses to become the bridge that forces forgiveness prematurely. Empathy, she knows, cannot be demanded. It must be earned, and Dylan has not yet decided whether he wants it. As weeks pass, the tension escalates not through overt threats, but through proximity. Dylan appears at events he should not know about. He references conversations he should not have heard. He positions himself as unavoidable, a constant reminder that the past cannot be locked away again. His message is clear without being spoken. You cannot move forward without me. Finn grows increasingly concerned, pushing for legal intervention, for boundaries enforced by something stronger than hope. Steffy resists at first, not out of denial, but out of fear that containment will only deepen Dylan's sense of rejection. Yet, when Dylan begins to test limits appearing near their home, inserting himself into Steffy's professional life, she realizes that restraint has become complicity. Protecting her family now requires action, even if that action risks escalating Dylan's anger. The final shift comes when Dylan reveals his endgame, not through confession, but through implication. He tells Steffy that he does not want her life. He wants her understanding. But he also wants the world to know what Taylor did, not as scandal, but as truth. He wants the image of the perfect, compassionate mother dismantled piece by piece, replaced with the reality of a woman who chose silence over responsibility. In his mind, exposure is justice. Steffy realizes then that Dylan's punishment is not aimed solely at Taylor. It is aimed at legacy, at identity, at the idea that some people are allowed to rewrite their pasts while others are forced to live inside them forever. Dylan wants to collapse that hierarchy, even if it means burning everything down. The story moves toward an inevitable reckoning. Taylor must choose whether to protect her reputation or finally center the son she abandoned, regardless of the cost. Steffy must decide whether acknowledging Dylan as her brother requires continued access to her life, or whether love can exist alongside firm boundaries. Dylan must confront the possibility that vengeance, once fulfilled, may leave him emptier than before. There is no clean resolution waiting at the end of this arc. Healing, if it comes, will be slow and uneven. Forgiveness, if it happens, will not erase damage. What remains certain is this: the secret that once lived in silence has reshaped every relationship it touched. The family can no longer pretend that truth is optional or that intentions matter more than impact. As the dust settles, one thing becomes clear. Dylan did not enter Steffy's life by accident. He was drawn there by a fracture that existed long before either of them understood it. And now that the fracture is visible, the only question left is not whether the family can survive it, but whether they are willing to be honest enough to try.